Okay, Wildcats, today we're looking at journal page 57, attributes of rational functions. Okay, so first off, we need to factor the numerator and denominator. So here you can see we can factor out a 4 from the numerator, so that leaves 4 times x minus 3. The denominator is already factored, so that's divided by x minus 1. Now, if there are wholes, then this would divide and become 1. Since that doesn't happen, we can say that there are no wholes. Okay? Now, for the zeros, you set the numerator equal to 0. So we set 4x minus 12 equal to 0. We add 12 to both sides, so you get 4x equals 12. Divide both sides by 4, x equals 3. So our 0 is 3, 0. Okay, now for the vertical asymptote, you set the denominator equal to 0. So x minus 1 equal to 0. So x equals 1 is your vertical asymptote. Okay, now for the horizontal slant asymptote, you use long division. So in x minus 1 divided into four x minus 12. Okay. Now, you ask yourself, what do you multiply x by to give you 4x? The answer to that is 4. Now, this is the quotient. And this is the dividend. Now, we don't need to worry about the remainders. All we care about is the quotient. Once we find the quotient, we know if it's a horizontal or a slant. Okay? If there's no x, it's a horizontal asymptote. So your horizontal asymptote is y equals 4. Okay, go ahead and finish up example 1. All right, example 2. So we're going to factor the numerator and denominator. So here, there's nothing you can factor in the numerator, so that's just 2x. But here, x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. So that factors to be x minus 2, x plus 2. Now, nothing divides and becomes 1, so there's no wholes. Okay, now zeros, you set the numerator equal to 0, so 2x equal to 0. So x equals 0. So your 0 is 0, 0. Okay, for the vertical asymptote, you set the denominator equal to 0. So x minus 2 equal to 0, and x plus 2 equal to 0. So x equals 2, and x equals negative 2 are your vertical asymptotes. Okay, now for the horizontal asymptote, you divide. So x squared plus 0x minus 4 divided into 2x. Well, actually, I'm sorry, 0x squared plus 2x. Now you ask yourself, what do you multiply x squared to give you 0x squared? The answer to that is 0. Okay, since there is no x in the quotient, we know it's a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay, go ahead and finish up example 2. All right, now let's take a look at example 3. Okay, now again, we factor the numerator and denominator. So we know that this is going to factor as 2 parentheses. We know that x and x makes x squared. Now we have to ask ourselves, what do you multiply to give you -6 and combine to be a +1? The answer to that is x plus 3, x minus 2. Okay, now here you have x minus 2. Now you'll see here that anything divided by itself is 1. So this divides and becomes 1. So then we now know we have a whole at x minus 2, and we set that equal to 0. Okay, and solve. So x equals 2, but a whole is a point. So we need to find the y value. So we're going to evaluate the function, okay, without this, because that divides and becomes 1. So all we have to do is plug the 2 into x plus 3. So f of 2 equals 2 plus 3, which equals 5. So our whole is at the point 2, 5. Okay. Now the 0, we set the numerator equal to 0. Now remember, this divided and become 1, so we only set the x plus 3. So x plus 3 equal to 0. So solve for x, x equals -3. So our 0 is -3, 0. Okay. Now, our vertical asymptote, we set the denominator equals 0. Well, this divided and becomes 1, so the denominator is just 1. Okay, so you would set 1 equal to 0. Well, that's not true. So we would say that there are no vertical asymptotes. Okay, now for the horizontal slant asymptote, we divide, so that's x. Oh, but wait. When the denominator is 1, we say that there are no horizontal asymptotes. And no slant asymptotes. Okay. Oh, got blurry there. Adjust that a little bit. Okay, now let's take a look at example 4. Okay, so we're going to factor the denominator, the numerator, 2 parentheses. We know x and x makes x squared. And we have to ask ourselves, what do you multiply to give you 12 and combine to be 7? The answer to that is x plus 3 and x plus 4 divided by x minus 1. Now, nothing divides and becomes 1, so there are no wholes. Now the zeros, we set the numerator equal to 0, so x plus 3 equal to 0, and x plus 4 equal to 0. So x equals -3, x equals -4. So we have two zeros, one at -3, 0, and one at -4, 0. Well, that's a terrible box. Let me try to redraw that. Not perfect, but much better. All right, now for the vertical asymptote, you set the denominator equal to 0. So you set x minus 1 equal to 0. So x equals 1 is your vertical asymptote. Okay, and then for the horizontal slant asymptote, we divide. So x minus 1 divided into 1x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, so now you ask yourself, what do you multiply x by to give you x squared? The answer to that is 1x. So you already know it's going to be a slant asymptote because you have an x in the quotient. So 1x times x is 1x squared. 1x times negative 1 is negative 1x. But we subtract. So that cancels. You're left with 7x and 1x is 8x. Bring down the plus 12. Okay, now you ask yourself, what do you multiply x by to give you 8x? The answer to that's plus 8. The quotient is completed. So we can now say that we have a slant asymptote at y equals 1x plus 8. Okay. Go and finish up example 4. And then start working on your assignment and have a wonderful Wildcat day.